Hello, everybody. Happy Friday, as they say. Welcome to this special event, this new to AWS show. And we're going to talk about the top trending use cases for generative AI that we're seeing out there with customers. We're going to share some cool example deployments, demos, and more. But everybody, welcome. I'm Trevor Spires. I'm a solutions architect working here at AWS with our customers day in and day out. And I'm coming at you all today from the great state of Maine. Thankfully, lucky for you all, it's not just me. We've got Abhishek and Yusuf here, the masterminds behind today's show and topics. Gentlemen, would you care to do two things? One, let us know who you are, what we're going to talk about, and let folks know where you are coming at to us from today in the world. And while you all are doing that, chat, where are you all coming in from? Oftentimes we have AWS learners from across the globe sitting in with us, so let us know where you're dialing in from. Abhishek, over to you, my friend.
Sure. Thanks, Trevor. Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. And thanks for tuning in to our session on top trending generative AI use case on AWS. I'm Abhishek Srivastava, Principal Solutions Architect at AWS. I work very closely with customers across segment to build and implement their cloud strategies. In the last couple of years, I helped multiple customers build and launch their first Gen AI workload. Today, I'm joined from Fairfax, Virginia, and it's really nice early fall vibe here.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Yusuf. I am a solutions architect here at AWS. I've been here for around 2.5 years now, almost. I've been specializing in generative AI for about 2 of those. I'm based out of HQ2. Excited to be here, and I'm going to pass it back to Abhishek to take it away.
Love it, Abhishek. I think the chat wants to just see us get this party started, but I've just got to comment on the enthusiastic crowd that we have today, folks. As we go through the content, feel free, in addition to letting us know where you're coming at from in the world today, let us know if you have any questions about generative AI and what we're seeing in the industry along the way. And Abhishek, if you want to say a few words before we kick things off, go for it. But I'll go ahead and throw your deck up here for the folks in the audience.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to right dive in. We have an action packed agenda today. But before I get started, a very quick disclaimer. I just want to make sure the folks understand that this is not the exhaustive list, but just a trend that will help you ideate and get started with generative AI. Um, I also like to shout out my colleague Ajmal and Alex, who is off the screen and will be monitoring the chat. So feel free to ask them as we move along. All right, so let's get started with a story of my own. I have a 6 years old daughter, and she wanted a dress that has a really specific color and specific design. You know how the particular kids can be. So I decided to test Amazon's AI shopping assistant. I gave Amazon Rufus a complex task: find a dress matching my daughter's very specific request. And the result? Well, you see right on yourself on the screen there. Rufus is one of the many examples how Amazon is using generative AI. Whether it is enriching product information, highlighting the helpful reviews, or helping the seller with creating an engaging advertising content, Gen AI is embedded virtually across every business segment at Amazon. Some of these examples you probably have already experienced through Amazon Pharmacy, Fire TV, Prime Videos, Amazon Music, Alexa, and many more. But here is a fun fact: Amazon isn't alone in this AI transformation. So let's take a look at our broader customer trends that is shaping across the companies and how they're using the generative AI to transform their own use case and business. Before we get started into these generative AI use case, let's go to the source. We have analyzed several key sources, such as AWS Customer Success Story from GenAI Innovation Center, AWS Partner Success Story from Partner Channel, Bedrock Usage Pattern, and some of the industry research to identify top 3 generative AI use case. Furthermore, along with this discussion, we will go a little deeper into these use cases and discover the top design pattern with their industry relevance. So you will have really deep understanding of how these use cases are implemented across different design pattern in different business use cases. So let's get started with enhanced customer experience. From the very beginning, one use case stood out, and that is customer experience. Why? Because Gen AI fundamentally changed what's possible in customer interaction. These models can understand natural language the way you and I, the human, can do, not just the keyword, but context, intent, and nuance. They can reason through complex problem statement and generate a personalized response in a real time. And this is why customer experience become the first major enterprise use case for generative AI. The second major use case that we are seeing is employee productivity and creativity. Now, the Gen AI model not only have the broad and pre-trained generic intelligence, but they can adopt domain knowledge and business context, which is really powerful. So suddenly, employees are not just getting some generic answers, but they are getting an insight that is grounded in your own organization expertise. And the result of that is less repetitive work, more creative problem solving, and that is productivity unlock. The third use case that we are seeing in the industry is the most transformative, and that is business process optimization. This is where the things are really getting interesting. Now, where what we are seeing is organization fundamentally rethink how to implement a workflow automation. So if you remember those model I just talked about for the customer experience, the ones that could understand and generate a human-like response, they are now using the same reasoning ability to do something entirely different, and that is orchestrate a multi-step complex business process. Here is how it works. Instead of following a rigid pre-programming rule, these models can assess a situation, decide which tool to use, determine what resources it needs, and executes multi-step workflow all autonomously. I call this is not just an automation, but this is an intelligent automation. And that's what we've seen as the top three trends across the industry. So now that we covered the basic of these use case, let's go deeper and uncover the trending design pattern across each use case.
It's exciting stuff, Abhishek. I got to ask you real quick. What's your favorite from that list? I'm a big I'm a big user of those employee productivity tools myself, so I'm a fan. I'm a fan of that one.
I would let you hold that thought because
Well, hold the thought.
I kept that one as the last design pattern in my slides.
All right,
So
all right.
I'll get
Let's
to
not
that
let's
one, I
not yeah
promise.
let's not ruin the surprise.
Yeah,
People are psyched up though. People got questions about use cases, so I'm excited to see what's in here.
absolutely. So let's get started with the top three design pattern under enhanced customer experience. So the first one is conversational AI pattern, which implements a context-aware dialogue system that processes natural language input, that's the power of these foundation models, maintains the conversation state, and generate a human-like response. Now, these patterns can be deployed across multiple channels. So we are not just talking about text-based channel like chatbot, but things like voice-based channel like IVR system, multimodal channels like smart display, all comes under this umbrella of design called conversational AI pattern. Right? Now, one may ask, hey, conversational AI pattern wasn't new to our industry. So what has been changed or transformed by generative AI? Here is a fact. The advanced language understanding through these transformer architecture was the game changer for this architecture pattern. Leveraging the attention mechanism to capture the long range dependencies and context was really powerful. In a simple term, if I explain this one, it can really handle a messy human language, topic chain, and vague requests. So if you are not so sure about what you are asking, somehow this foundation model gets to the bottom, understand your intent of the question, and that is very powerful. But not only the general intelligence, with the zero shot and a few shot learning, you can deploy a conversational agent without extensive training, which is trained in your own domain enterprise data set, and that helps you to accelerate and time to market with building these conversational AI agents. So let's play a couple of industry examples here. Patient communication and care management in healthcare is a really great example, which offers things like appointment scheduling, reminder, post discharge follow ups, and many more, which directly influence and improves the patient outcome. In fact, here is a fun factor. Yusuf will cover a demo and architecture deep dive on a specific this use case later. So you will see much more deeper and how to implement this one on AWS as well later today. Another example is the retail style advisor, where product search is enhanced with generative AI to match user intent. The same example I gave you at the opening about Amazon Rufus. So these are a couple of the industry example, but across the board, you will see many use cases matching this design pattern. All right, so let's jump into the next one, and that is personalization pattern, where these foundation model learn from the user behavior preference to generate a tailored recommendation for our customers. How GenAI is changing this pattern? FM enabled personalization through context injection. Now, that is either via in context learning or fine tuning, but over a very small data set. You can simply utilize a RAG architecture and create a complete tailored experience for your own customers. If you go through a couple of industry examples in this category, personalized financial advisor in banking to offer any investment recommendation based on beneficiary risk tolerance is a good example there. Another example from the insurance industry is to generate the personalized coverage based on the customer profile. So these are a couple of industry examples that matches this design pattern. All right, last but not least, the reason this field of AI ML is called generative AI is due to its ability to generate a new content across various types like text, image, video, audio, etc. And that's why we have that stood out as its own design pattern called content generation pattern. Um, so why generative AI enhance this pattern? All of the features that I mentioned earlier about zero shot, few shot generation, context awareness, all applies here. But the superpower of these FM is their ability to consider the entire context through self-attention when generating next token. In a simple term, every new word that is coming off this foundation model is informed by everything that came before. And that is super powerful. It is powerful in terms of content generation, as well as if you go back to our earlier design pattern for the personalization as well. All right, let's tie this one back to a couple of industry example. The first one is one where I personally work with our customer is generating a gaming storyline and offering a dialogue tree based on the player choice, game state, and character profiles. If you are in industrial and manufacturing space, creating technical specification and troubleshooting guide based on the historical failure patterns are some of the example how industries can benefit from this design pattern. All right. I hope now it is making sense and you can able to relate this across your industry and your business problems. Let's take a look on the final design pattern. Oh, no, not final. We have still more actually. On the top three design pattern and actually under the employee productivity and creativity. So we will start with SDLC acceleration pattern. Trevor, your favorite. In this design pattern, the model integrate across software development lifecycle to automate code generation, testing, documentation. All of the recent excitement around vibe coding and spec coding has really supercharged the software industry to bring software to the market faster than ever before. Now, how generative AI is helping in this case? The code trained transformers now understand the syntax, semantics, and the pattern across multiple software languages. And that is helping our customers to use these foundational model as code assistant, as a code companion. On the other hand, we are going to push the boundary where the context window utilization is enabling these models to understand the entire spec. So you just upload the specs, the user story, the architecture diagram, and these models can help you generate the entire application codes. So not just a single function, but helping you to power the entire spec coding. Very powerful, really game changing here. The next design pattern in this category is the knowledge discovery pattern, where generative AI model helps to synthesize and extract the insight from unstructured data and enables knowledge discovery across enterprise documents. Now, if you look at some of the Gen AI features I mentioned earlier, which is zero-shot learning and zero-shot information extraction and in-context learning, all drives this pattern as well. But one of the key feature that I like to highlight here is embedding-based similarity search, which really surpasses to simple keyword matching. Now, I personally come from a search background. What this really means for you is you find the document by meaning, not just by the terms. And that is really powerful. And that's why one of the things I want to highlight that this design pattern is where we have seen the most implementation because of two reasons. One is the simplicity to implement. And today we will see some of the implementation steps from Yusuf as well and demo as well. And then second one is the faster business value. So with a simple RAG based solution, you can perform a complex contract analysis or compliance reporting or build your HR policy across different industries for the new customer onboarding. So really, really powerful, and something which is simple and really generates a faster ROI for our business. Last design pattern in this case is the data to analytics pattern. In this design pattern, organization can drive actionable insight on the enterprise data. Generative model can help parse natural language and produce visualization and analytical narratives. Right? The most important feature beyond natural language understanding and query translation for the foundation model is context aware visualization. So in a simple term, what I'm saying is the model understand which chart type matches your data pattern. And that is really powerful. Think about executive reporting and natural language BI that offers business and non-technical users who is not that much familiar with building these dashboards and reports. They can use and generate the BI out of their enterprise data by writing the natural language interaction with your system. So something really powerful, and we are seeing customer adopting this one day in, day out.
And Abhishek, if you don't mind going back real quick, we had a few
Yeah.
questions over these that I think would be really cool opportunity to get your take on. I don't know if this aligns with like SDLC generation, but we have like a chat all-star here with us today, Philip, and he's kind of curious. It sounds like he's trying to generate some game tree dialogue, which I'm familiar with. In fact, that like some very old school like gaming trends are kind of creating these various tracks that you can go through text-based things on. To me, that feels like something that you could probably do with an agentic coding editor pretty easily. What do you think?
No, I agree. And this is where it is going to intersect probably more than one design pattern. It might intersect your personalization pattern, so it understands the gamer's behavior, the past engagement with different gaming application. It intersect with the content generation pattern. And then absolutely, it might be intersecting with some of the agentic AI, which we are going to discuss next as the design pattern. So one of the things which I want to highlight, Trevor, glad that you asked me this question, because these are individual design pattern, but when we see through industry use case lens, there might be more than one design pattern that applies to a single use case. And that's the power here. So you think about each of these individual modules, and then you stitch them together to build an automated your own use case.
That's a really helpful. That's a cool insight, and I think one that folks can take away is like just making yourself aware of the patterns and the capabilities is really essential, especially if you work for a company where you all are still kind of in the early stages of Gen AI adoption, because not everybody kind of knows where the technology is best applied, and so I think it's invaluable knowledge. In fact, I've got a question from Aniket as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if behind the next slide we might have an answer to his question. Is if he's asking if there's any use cases related to financial services data processing. I wonder.
Yeah, and hold to that one. It is the next one. You guessed it right. When it comes to intelligent document processing, workflow automation, this all falls under optimized business process use case. So we are going to cover that design pattern as well. All right, let's go. But by the way, I love these questions, and I wish I could take all of them and then address. Let's go over the last use case and 3 more design pattern for optimized business process. I'm going to start with workflow automation pattern. So here is the fun fact. The foundation model has now evolved beyond simple token generation to become an autonomous agent. And now you guessed it right. I'm heading towards agentic AI. This helps to orchestrate multi-step business process, interprets the complex rules, and execute action on behalf of the users. So how does generative AI helps to this pattern? Through its ability on multi-step reasoning and planning, model offers the chain of thought prompting, so you know exactly all the step-by-step process that model is taking, the recursive task decomposition, so it knows which task to take and prioritize first, and helps in reasoning, planning, tool orchestration for autonomous decision making. And this is game changer. I think when we move from enhanced customer experience to something which is more towards agentic AI, you see a broader umbrella of use case has been now open. And you see right here, let's take a look on a couple of industry examples. By the way, we had many, and I was trying to squeeze in top 3 here, but I'll start with an automated loan underwriting as an example, where agentic AI orchestrate multiple parallel workflow, including credit bureau integration, fraud pattern detections, regulatory compliance validation, risk modeling, and so on and so forth. So many layer of complex processes is being automated, all without human interventions. That is artificial intelligence. So this is really powerful and an area where we have seen a significant interest from our customers in building, automating their current use case. Let's move to our next one. Oops, sorry. Which is the forecasting and detection. The foundation model enhanced the traditional time series analysis by providing some contextual understanding, generating the explanation, and incorporating unstructured data into the forecasting model. Right. So where Gen AI is really helping for forecasting and detection pattern is the anomaly explanation. Model not only flags the anomaly, I think that was possible with any rule based engine as well earlier, but it generates a casual hypothesis that is much easier for people like you and I to understand on what's going on with these anomalies. Right? Let's take an example. Supply chain is definitely a clear winner here, where you can do a supply chain forecasting for different SKUs in retail. Um, Grid load balancing and power demand forecasting in energy and utility sector are another examples. But there are many more when it comes to you know doing a forecasting or detecting, especially inside the industrial use case, to utilize the generative AI anomaly explanation and model and the anomaly detection capabilities, and implement some of these automations for your own use case. Like I said, I saved the last one because it is my favorite for the last, right? Because this use case is supercharging physical AI, and that is data augmentation. Physical AI is always looking for high quality synthetic data to train its model. In this pattern, the generative AI model augments the real world data with synthetic data, and that helps to accelerate the industrial automation. So, question is, how does generative AI do this? The synthetic data generation from these model maintains a oh my god, statistical distribution with the real world data. Now that I have a problem in saying this word, I'm going to explain what it means. This means the real data set is now augmented with synthetic data set, but with a different variations, and that is helping the industry to randomize and augment the real world data set for any physical AI training. So who is the biggest beneficiary here? All industrial automation could really benefit from this industry pattern. For example, autonomous vehicles, production line automation, and warehouse automation, all of them can really beneficiary of data augmentation pattern that is emerging from these foundation models. All right. I think you probably all been waiting for this one. This is a good segue for us to transition from theory to practical, right? We analyze these design pattern. I mentioned about all the different sources. What we did is we put together multiple lightning lab. These lightning labs are a quick hands-on guide for you to get started on generative AI. I'll hand over to Yusuf now to take it over from here and discuss lightning labs and share demos and architectures.
Thank you so much for that, Abhishek. And yeah, just a little bit of a high level overview on Lightning Labs. In just 15 minutes, you could go from a curious beginner to an AWS builder. Now, these Lightning Labs don't only have generative AI, they have foundations, including cost control and monitoring, security foundations, network foundations, of course, generative AI, as well as resiliency, cloud native solutions, and migration. So whatever might fit, whatever is your cup of tea, you could go in and deploy and try it right away. Hopefully there should be a link in the chat where you could go look at these Lightning Labs. If you see my face in the front, in the right spot. But in this session specifically, we will be diving deep into the generative AI portion And the one that we will be focusing on is build a generative AI powered chatbot. Now, what we'll be doing here is building a retrieval augmented generation chatbot. For those who are not familiar with RAG, it's a way to get more accurate, up-to-date data, relevant, up-to-date, accurate data, because you're able to connect your specific data source to these LLMs, these large language models. Now, what we'll be doing in this specific workshop, or the services that we will be leveraging, is Amazon Bedrock, which is our generative AI service, as well as Amazon S3, which is going to be our data source. And before we kind of dive deeper into the specific lab, I want to kind of go through a reference architecture. Now, this reference architecture is actually from Adobe, and their internal developers had to go through wikis. They had to go through software guides and troubleshooting guides, and their data was all over the place. And they were spending, hours weekly trying to find the specific data. So what they're able to do with knowledge bases and, consolidating their data within, Amazon S3, now their developers could use their time more wisely. And they consolidated it within an S3 bucket. They're able to use knowledge bases, and now they could go ask questions, summarize specific things to build and boost productivity overall. Now, in our lab, we have a very similar architecture. We are going to be using a Streamlit front end, as well as using Bedrock knowledge bases. We're going to be using OpenSearch vector databases. We're using Titan embeddings models and Amazon S3 as our document storage. I know people were talking about this in the chat while Abhishek was talking about RAG and how to leverage that a little bit. So we can be diving deeper specifically into that. And first off, we're going to be starting off by diving deep into the console. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go to Amazon S3 first, and we're going to upload a document. Now, this same exact document will be in the lab, but I highly recommend to put your own data in here and start asking questions about your own data so you can see the real benefit of this as well. So you're going to go to S3, you're going to upload your document, and you're going to upload it here as well. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to go to Amazon Bedrock, which again is our generative AI application. And within Bedrock, we're going to go to, and before we go to build in knowledge bases, you guys want to make sure that you have model access. Now, this screen will automatically give you model access October 8th. So if you're watching the stream maybe in the future, or you're watching it on YouTube as a video later, you might not need to request model access. But what we're doing here is we're going to go Titans embeddings version 2. For my use case, I've kind of requested some of the Claude models here as well. And now we are going to go into our knowledge base. We're going to go here. We're going to go knowledge base with vector store. Now you could give it a name. You could keep the default name. You can say Lightning Labs, chatbot. You give it a description. Now you can see the data source types that we have within knowledge bases. You have Amazon S3, you have a web crawler, you have your custom ones, you have your Confluence, Salesforce, SharePoint. For this use case, we're going to be specifically choosing Amazon S3, and we're going to press next. Now we could give it a data source a name if we'd like, and now we could see the data source location, this account, other AWS accounts. We're just going to simply browse, find our specific S3 bucket, and take that, and now we could choose a parsing strategy. So we are going to, you could do the default parser, but if you maybe have images that you want to, process, you could use Bedrock Data Automation, which we're going to dive a little bit deeper into what that is a little bit later in the session, or you could do foundational models as a parser. We're going to press next. We're going to choose our embeddings model, which is going to turn our text into embeddings. And we could choose the model that we selected, and we are going to choose our vector store. So we could choose open source serverless. Now, at New York Summit, we did launch Amazon S3 vectors, and depending on when you're watching this, Right now, it's currently in preview, so we don't recommend it for production workloads. But again, depending on when you're watching this, it might be fully out then. But this is a very cost-effective and durable storage. But for this use case, we're going to be using Amazon OpenSearch Serverless. Go here, press next. Now you guys can review and create your knowledge base here. Now this could take 1, 2, 3 minutes depending on specific factors, but you could go here as well and just create it. I already have mine's created over here. Now, when you're uploading this specific data and as you continuously update more data into your data source, you want to make sure that you are syncing that specific data. So you're going to press there, you can press sync, and as new data comes in, you want to make sure you're syncing this specific data. Here, now what we're going to do is you can go here, and before I kind of show you in the front end side of things, you could go and test your specific knowledge base. So going here, you could see that you could select your model. So you could go here, selecting our specific model. You can select certain guardrails. So you can see on the build side that you can create guardrails for that responsible AI portion. And this whole kind of category fits in that content generation and knowledge discovery pattern, but can fit into a variety of different patterns. This is just more of one service, but combining multiple services can expand this pattern to a variety of different things. And we'll talk a little bit more about that medical one that Abhishek mentioned and a variety of different ones as well. But looking into specifically these guardrails for that responsible AI, for example, Abhishek mentioned a financial use case as a financial advisor or a medical use case. You don't want someone who is, if it's a financial chatbot, you don't want someone talking medical questions to that financial chatbot and vice versa. So you could set these specific guardrails for, harmful content or anything that you might not want to be people asking for your specific chatbot. You could set those specific guardrails here and here, and then you could add them here. And then you have your generation prompt. So again, if you're a financial, you could say, hey, instead of you're a questioning answering agent, you can say you're a financial agent. And then you have your orchestration prompt here as well. And you're going to go, I'm going to go back here for a second. And you can see that you have your knowledge base ID, and you could call this knowledge base ID from a single API. But we're going to be leveraging this for a front end application. So for our front end specifically, what we're going to do is we're going to copy this knowledge base ID. We're going to take it here. We're going to go to our S3 bucket. We're going to take the name of our S3 bucket name. We're going to take that and go here. We're going to select our model, and then we're going to save configuration. So as simple as that, we've kind of built a little front end. We've created a knowledge base. We have our data stored there, and now we could go in and ask questions about our specific data. So we could ask something as simple as, so this document for reference has a bunch of different AWS information, benefits of the cloud, what is cloud computing, AWS services. So we could start off by just a simple knowledge search. What is cloud computing? And we can see that it gave a specific result. Now, as well as, providing summaries of documents like, hey, machine learning on AWS. And now it's going to search that knowledge base again and be able to pick that up and respond to that. So it's going to search that knowledge base and going to give you a simple description or summary of machine learning on AWS specifically from those specific documents. And now,
Yusuf, I got something for you. Would you mind two things? We got a bunch of great questions that are piling in. I want to run a couple by you if you have a sec. But also, would you mind zooming in a little bit on the browser just so folks can see some of the text? Sure, that works.
Is that a little bit better?
It's a little bit better, yeah. I think if we do more browser stuff, it'd be good if we could zoom in on Chrome just to make sure that the text comes through for sure. But in the meantime, we got a lot of great questions. First of all, we got a lot of love for Abhishek coming in. despite the spelling of Abhishek, we can ignore that part, but we got a lot of love for Abhishek coming in. I want to just bring attention to a few of the questions. I think one question I get asked a lot, I want to hear both of your opinions on it because you're in the field working with customers on use cases. How do you view the technology in relation to us? The people, the developers, the builders, the workers out there doing the job. What's your view on kind of where the industry is going and where folks like Chandru and myself sit in this whole AI thing?
And again, I can speak for myself. I've been in the industry for almost 18 years. And in my opinion, a technology is always the best companion. I don't feel technology being a competitor to myself. I'll be very honest. And let's take an example of spec coding, right? When I got to know that there is something like this exists with Keto, by the way, folks on online, if you want to just Google about Keto, and I really encourage you all to join the waitlist and then be part of the Keto community. But the spec development feature that is there really helped myself to build all those small things which I want to build, for my own or for my project or for my customer's demo. That takes me for a week to build that demo and showcase to our customer what's possible, in any domain. And so that is very helpful. And with technology, as the new technology coming in, like generative AI, I always feel it accelerates the way we work. It always being a companion to myself to showcase my idea and bring it in front of our customers and then partners.
Yeah, I could definitely second that from what Abhishek is saying. I used to build demos, and it would take me a while to build these specific demos for customers. Now I could quickly come up with some sort of proof of concept using Q Developer or Kiro to just boost productivity on my side. Now I don't have to spend, hours a week, multiple hours a day every week to build these specific demos that I'm building for customers. I could quickly build something up and show it off to the customers that I'd be talking to.
And a lot of folks were asking, what is Amazon's vibe coding tool? You heard it, Kiro, Kiro. Go check it out, folks. We pre-launched it at or I think put it in preview at a New York Summit. We've been opening up a lot of access to the tool in the recent week. So that's when if you don't have an agentic development tool of choice, you definitely gotta check that one out. All right. Last question, Yosef, and I'll let you proceed. Okay, but I gotta get one more of these questions in for the audience. This is a super important one. Some of these use cases we're talking about here, they have sensitive data in them, right? Especially when we're talking about, like, I work in financial services. I started my career in defense, and something I hear from a lot of customers is just we're a little scared to maybe share our data or send our data into a service. How do you view that? Maybe there's tools, maybe it's just something that we do as a provider, but what would you say to a customer that was in a lightning lab and said, but I don't want to send my private data into Bedrock?
No, the great thing about Bedrock is none of the models or anything like that is training on your specific data. So that's why you get that security that AWS has to offer without, having to risk your specific data. So you could store these in the S3. You could have that reliability of AWS and using these large language models without any of your data being trained on, with your data staying within your environment. It gives you a really good place to have that security as well, so that fear can kind of go away as well. So yeah, 100% hear that question all the time. Like, oh, I don't want my data to be trained on, but don't worry, in Bedrock, none of your data is going to be trained on.
Love it. Yeah, that's something a lot of my customers like about it too. It's not just like there are guardrails that you can, of course, like enforce some additional levels of security, but a lot of customers I work with just inherently trust the Bedrock models because we have a really strong stance on security and privacy. So very important for those folks that are thinking about building use cases with company data. So thank you, Yosef.
Yeah, 100%. And just one more question I'm going to ask out of this management system, and I'm going to go into 2 more use cases, kind of dive a little bit deeper into those. Abhishek mentioned about creating product descriptions, stuff like that. So again, ease of access, allowing you to kind of just boost productivity. And you can see that, hey, we wanted to create one for ECS, and it could kind of give you that little description here as well. Now I want to shift over to two more use cases, maybe more on the workflow automation side. And the first one I want to talk about is build intelligent document processing using generative AI. So we have a service called Bedrock Data Automation, and this is not only intelligent document processing. I would say it's intelligent content processing. So not only can you do documents and your financial documents or whatever documents you may have, you could set custom rules. So for example, you might have a birth certificate. You might only want to extract your first name, the last name, your birth date. You could do that by creating blueprints within Bedrock Data Automation. But Bedrock Data Automation doesn't only touch that. So I had a customer use case because it also does video, images, audio, and it's able to create summaries and transcripts, and able to extract and do those custom blueprints that I'm talking about. Now, I had a customer use case pretty recently where they were a car dealership, and they had certain scenarios where a customer would say, hey, we said this, salesperson would say, hey, we said this, and now the GM or the sales manager would have to go through these full calls to see, hey, like what went on, who said what, as well as for customer sentiment analysis to see how these calls are going. Now, this was very time consuming because going through a whole 30-minute call can be very time consuming. Now, they were able to automate this whole process by essentially throwing that data into an S3 bucket and having that set to Bedrock Data Automation, where that was able to summarize the conversation. It was able to do a full transcript of the conversation, and as well as set up a custom blueprint and say, how helpful was this conversation? Was it helpful? How was the tone of this conversation? And that was going to be able to be stored in a web app for these sales managers and GMs, as well as to do more data visualization and see how calls in general are going for these leaders and C-suites to see how in general the company was doing. So this lab dives deeper into that specific use case where if you wanted to do some sort of intelligent document processing, media analysis, audio processing, you could leverage Bedrock Data Automation here. This lab kind of goes through all of that process with a document and an audio file. And the last one I want to talk about, I think that this one has most of the hype nowadays, at least, from my customers, what I see is the agentic AI portion of things. And we have two labs that cover agentic AI, but I want to cover Agent Core first, specifically because this is our secure service to deploy and build AI agents at scale. And in this specific use case, it's another car dealership use case. So, going back there, but what this is able to do in this use case is a customer could go into this agent, this chatbot, and be able to pull up their warranty, pull up their customer profile, pull up their warranty, and create an appointment for their maintenance that they might need. Now, what this is able to do is in Agent Core, we have Runtime, which is our serverless platform for deploying these and running these specific AI agents. But there's multiple features as well within Agent Core. So it's your gateway that's going to help you connect your other tools and services to your agent. You have your memory, which is going to store your short-term and long-term memory, as well as your identity, making sure that they have the proper authentication to make these specific requests. And then you also have your large language models that connects to all of this to, invoke the LLM and process these specific outputs. So a lot of things here in a very cool specific use case, but I also want to touch on the medical provider agent use case as well. Now, this one kind of is that patient one that Abhishek was talking about, where he was talking about, hey, scheduling appointments and getting booking details and finding specific information about doctors. And now what they're leveraging here is, we just talked about knowledge bases, is that you're able to connect your knowledge base so that the LLM has the information about what doctors are available, what they specialize in, as well as leverage these DynamoDB for your specific appointments and availabilities and creating these appointments. So a variety of these different labs can touch a variety of different things. So again, thank you guys so much. I know we talked about a variety of different use cases here. We have one where we're using DevOps and Q Developer to fix a broken website. We have one with, business intelligence and using natural language to ask questions about your dashboards and kind of diving deeper into your data there. And then we have Amazon Q Business as well, where you could use a variety of different data sources to do retrieval augmented generation, to go a little bit in a fully managed application way. But I want to hand it back off to Abhishek to close us off.
Thanks, Yusuf. All right, so let me share my screen, the last. And okay, lots of those use cases. And I hope you will find something that matches your own use case and helps you to get started on generative AI. Before we close off, I put together a 5A Gen AI mental model. This is synthesized from my experience working with customers to build successful Gen AI workload. I like to start by saying one key message to all of you. One is launching generative AI use case successfully isn't about rushing to adopt the latest model. It is about following a deliberate and strategic approach that is really customized to your own business need. Let's quickly take a quick look on this 5A, Gen AI mental model framework. The first step is to start aligning your AI initiative with actual business objective. What problem you are trying to solve? Is it a customer experience, operational efficiencies, or revenue growth? Second, assess where you are today. What is your data readiness? Do you have right infrastructure? What is your current team's capability? The third layer of this framework is to architect your AI solution with the end goal in mind. This means choosing the right model, building the robust data pipeline. You see Yusuf talking about the robust data pipeline throughout in his use case. Creating a governance framework, very important, because architecting is not just about technical, it includes security, privacy, and ethical consideration. So keep in mind when you architect your Gen AI solution. The fourth layer is to activate your solution by starting small. Don't try to boil the ocean. This is where testing meets the reality, and you will learn from your work in production. And finally, measure the outcome against your original business objective. Ask the question, are you delivering a real value? And continuously optimized based on the feedback and performance data. All right. I really like to thank you all for joining our session today. I hope you have some takeaway from this session to think, ideate, and build. If you need any help, feel free to reach out to your AWS account manager or AWS SA. For now, take care. Over to you, Trevor.
That was a lovely way to cap us off. Yes, everybody, if you want to learn more, if you want to run some of these workshops, in fact, I'll just share one more time for the road the link to these lightning labs that we folks that want to continue the discussion after today's session can pop into one of these lightning labs and get hands-on themselves. Abhishek, Yusuf, thanks so much for making time on a Friday to talk with our awesome community of viewers and learners here within AWS. And until next time, folks, please take it easy and stay tuned, by the way, for more great content coming out of AWS streaming channels. Hit subscribe, like whatever you should do in the platform that you're on, and enjoy your weekend. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.